agencies, we are going to be talking about integration challenge for the contemporary marketer. And we're going to be having 4 amazing speakers. Archana Aggarwal, VP Media Airtel. Archana has over 27 years of experience and is a media professional. Prior to Airtel, she was with Country Media Manager at PNG and has done stints with leading agencies like Group M and McCann, Ericsson, working across key clients like HUL, Kellogg's, Bajaj Auto, Coca-Cola and many more. Put your hands together for Ms. Archana. Now let's move on to our next speaker, Ranjeev, Executive Director, TBWA India. He is seasoned advertising, digital, data and PR professional with over 2.5 decades of successful career in leading agency and consultancy. Welcome you, sir. Leck, Global Director, Digital Innovation, EG Plus Worldwide, is a Global Director for Digital Innovation for EG Plus Worldwide. Based on the Middle East, he currently leads innovative labs and innovative program to help agency develop its knowledge and capabilities in emerging trends. Now I'm going to invite our moderator, Nitin, Naresh, and our speaker, Managing Director. Well, Nitin is the Managing Director for Magnon Designory, and Magnon is a leading digital creative and media agency of a presenting partner in this year. And as we all know, Magnon Group. Nitin has been with the group for over 21 years. In 2014, he became one of the youngest multinational agency managing director in the history of Indian advertising. Everybody, once again, let's give it up for Nitin Naresh. Well, I have to say that your energy is incredible. You were the only one waiting for this 3rd session to begin as soon as possible. Everybody, over to you now, and let's start with a great session. Thank you.
Yeah, working. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, John, Archana, Ranjeev. Thank you very much. I can't see Vineet right now. I can't see him somewhere, but you know what? Vineet boxed me knowingly, unknowingly. My session was to start, and his address was to be after this. So he was the one holding everybody back from liquor, but now he smartly preponed his, and you know I'm the one, and we are the people standing between you and the liquor, starting from Friday Fancy Night. So apologies for this, but again can't keep it short, but we'll try and make it interesting so that you know you don't feel as you traverse through this course. So thank you very much. Now introductions done. You know, before anything else, audience engagement is something that we all crave for. You know, I think most of us, it's a critical success factor. Most of us sitting in this room, we earn a livelihood out of audience engagement. So while we do that, you know, let me try and garner some audience engagement upfront and not keep it for the later. We can start with a quick question to the audience. You're smart guys, you don't have to answer that one. The topic is about challenges in integration, you know, and integrated marketing. So now there is integrated marketing, there is omni-channel marketing, there is multi-channel marketing. These are terms we often hear. We use those interchangeably. Are these the terms with similar meaning, or is integrated marketing different from omni-channel marketing, different from multi-channel marketing? Any thoughts, any voices from the audience about it? Anybody wants to share any views about it? Yes, see what you got. By God. Okay. I will try and define those a little, you know, very quickly, because perhaps that will streamline the discussion that we are going to take here on. Omni-channel marketing, as the term suggests, is essentially centered around customer experience, which is whatever channels of marketing you use, but your customer engagement with the brand, interaction with the brand remains the same. That experience remains the same. For example, you're standing in a queue at PVR for cinema tickets, and because it's a queue, you actually end up using a mobile app to buy the cinema tickets and get in quickly. The experience of buying into that brand, that cinema ticket was same for you, right? So that's omni-channel marketing. There is integrated marketing, which essentially is the topic today, deals more with consistency of messaging. You deploy different various media and marketing channels, but your consistency in messaging, the theme of your messaging remains the same, right? Both these hence talk about consistency, but in very different manner. One talks about consistency in customer experience, the latter one talks about consistency in messaging. And of course, multi-channel marketing is a disjoint, whatever, simply any marketing campaign that involves more than one media channel is a multi-channel marketing. We can leave that aside. So that's the little academic background to what I thought should be shared here. Now coming back to the actual topic of integrated marketing here, there are some very obvious advantages of running an integrated marketing. Your message gets, because you're hammering the same message across channels, so your message gets below the skin of the audience, number one. Your brand is easily recalled because messaging is same, associated visual assets, visual cues are same in that campaign, so there is a easier brand recall. The customer trusts you a little more because you are reliably being consistent, or perhaps consistently being reliable about your messaging. And everybody loves consistency. I love consistency in what a brand is speaking to me. I love consistency in how I interact with the brand. So all that is great hunky-dory stuff. So let's do integrated marketing, as simple as that. Having said that, we are still discussing this topic, and we know it for a fact. Marketeers, most of the brands, most of agencies are still struggling with integrated marketing. How do you really get there, right? And okay, superficially, sub-integrated, but are we really there? Right? Is where the question is where obviously there is more to it than just saying we are all integrated in great stuff. So I'm sure there are some challenges, and that is where perhaps gentlemen and the lady is what we are going to talk about. What are these challenges on integration marketing? Incidentally, as it happens, our panel consists of a very wide variety of people. We have somebody from the brand side, Archana. We have somebody who's out and out in an agency, consultancy guy. And then we have somebody who's over a period of time transitioned into a solutioning guy, right? Somebody who's providing solutions to go integrated, go efficient, go large marketing. So I think we will get views from various aspects of our industry. But if all of you can take a go at initial thoughts about the topic, that will be great. Thank you.
Old adage was everything communicates, right? That's how at least media professionals used to be one big circle with multiple platforms. I would call media choices and saying that everything communicates, and that's how we used to start all our media decks to when I was in the agency. And given that, I think as you rightly said, the biggest challenge is how do you ensure messaging across all these platforms comes across as similar, and the fact that they're communicating the same thing, right? And a brand like Airtel, we have so many channels and so we have SMS, we have our own base. Today, given the plethora of own-based channels, like we have your YouTube pages, you have your Instagram pages, you have your LinkedIn. Then you also have we also have our DTH Bapa channels. There's so much that we have from our own base or our own media. Then there's obviously paid media. So I think it's a big challenge, because how do you ensure the communication that you're talking is similar? But I think Airtel being such an old brand, and it's been consistent in terms of the way, at least the way it communicates in terms of, it's got its signature tune, which was made way back. It's got the Airtel logo, which is the wave. That's something which is very recognizable. So there are lots of assets that the brand has created over time that are now very true to the brand, or very, I mean, you cannot separate the two things between the brand. The color, for example, the red color, right? The white and red color. So I think brands, when we talk about integrated, one is there are certain mnemonics or certain kind of things which have to be consistent, and then how do you communicate the rest of it? Because with every product launch or with every new messaging, there is going to be some change in terms of the communication to the consumer. But these mnemonics become very critical, and how do you ensure there's continuity in those mnemonics? And even if you're making changes, like today, a lot of brands make changes, like for example, Nokia went and made changes to their logo. Right? But you need to now start building that logo if you're making that change. And it's quite a big change from what we were used to. At least I've grown up, like my first mobile phone was a Nokia phone. So I think mnemonics of brands in terms of the audio cues, visual cues, logo, all of these become very critical.
Very valid. I think, I was just talking to a friend of mine who's a CMO at a large multinational company, and he was saying that, I deal with 24 agencies. So that itself, I think, is the biggest challenge. So we spoke about, influencers earlier, content creators, there was conversation around regional content, how deep do you go and how much, kind of similarity that you can own for a brand. How do you make sure that the consumer across the funnel, across the customer journey, they are actually exposed to the right kind of message at the right time, and if they are like top of the funnel, are they getting that same message? What they get, with a different call to action, the bottom of the funnel. That's the point. And, Archana was talking about Airtel logo and identity. So it just made me nostalgic because I happened to work on Airtel when Airtel changed the logo in retail days, and also was part of the campaign that, where we created that, sound mnemonic with ARMI. Yes, these things do work. But when it comes to campaigns, when it comes to audiences, there's a lot of data also in today's day and age. How do you bring that data and that science and that art of creativity together? That's one challenge. How do you make sure that, there are different agencies who are working with you? They're able to bring and stitch everything together, and there is that same voice, same tonality, similar kind of, the personality of the brand, because you can't lose what the brand actually stands for. Every brand is like a human being. You buy into the philosophy. We buy brands and products not through our conscious but our subconscious. Like in fact, there was a study by Howard that said that 98% of the purchases happen through, subconscious brain. So how do we actually take that brand to a subconscious level? There is, in our brain, there are two parts. One is a conscious and a subconscious brain. And there is something called critical filter. So consistency of messaging, the personality of the brand, those things actually help in terms of building that brand and taking it to your subconscious level. But more importantly, to me, one of the biggest challenges that the marketers today are facing, that how do we integrate these 24 agencies we are dealing with? There is a SEO agency, which performance marketing is a separate agency. Then, somebody who is doing online media, there is an offline media agency, there is an agency who will do attribution study for me as a client. There is an agency who will do the creative work for, mainline campaigns above the funnel. There is an agency who will do, below the funnel. There is an agency who will do transcreation, translations. There is an agency who is actually doing social media. There is an agency. So there are so many different specializations. Is there a need for that kind of specialization, or do we need to, as marketeers, disrupt this entire ecosystem? Ken, I think in one of the previous sessions we were talking about that we need to be in a beta mode always, as marketeers. We spoke about, that Hanuman and that, Asura example, where like, you go there's something else, and then, that mouth actually keeps becoming bigger and bigger. I think that's what the key challenge is. And that's where I think the integration comes. There is apart from my role at TBWA as Executive Director, I also am Managing Director of Nissan United, which is a bespoke agency created for Nissan globally. And we do precision marketing across the funnel. And we have identified some 26, points, engagement points in the automobile customer journey. And across each level, we make sure that we do that precise messaging to the audience who's looking for that. So we have like this entire Omnicom patented tool called Omni. We basically use that to bring everything together. We do DCO, which is Dynamic Creative Optimizer, to make sure that the content that goes out to Vineet versus John versus me or Archana is all seamless, but it's also different. It's actually relevant for them in that particular context at that particular point in time. Because if somebody is just browsing through Insta stories and Reel, they may not be interested in certain kind of messaging, but you need to actually attract that attention, but lead from the relevance, the context of the audience, and come to that point.
He's good.
First of all, I like that question. I like this whole debate about integrated marketing.
Thank you.
And it's nice that you start off that way asking about the definition, because I've seen some of these terms being interchangeable. And honestly, you ask me, I don't really know what's the difference, because it's seen differently across different organizations from those that I've spoken to. Given my background and my specialty, I can't help but look at it from a lens of a technologist. And I feel like customers, compared to when I first started out in this industry, to build a customer profile is a bit more difficult now, because your customers are very fragmented. There's talk about Discord, talk about social influencer marketing, gaming. Your customers are everywhere. So from a technology standpoint, it's a bit of a headache, because how do you manage data? So data silos are, I think, one of the big problems for an integrated marketer. You have agencies doing their own things, building their own data and their own audiences that never gets shared around. You don't really have a coherent data management platform strategy to build the audiences that you would desire. But you can see it, so it's a bit frustrating, I would say. So that, coupled with the fact that market strategies as well is a bit of a roll of the dice sometimes. I see clients, just talk about DMPs. There's, what do you have? Adobe Data Cloud, Adobe Audience Manager, Oracle Data Cloud, Google Marketing Platform, and some of them are exclusive to certain publishers or certain ad networks. So they don't want to share. There's all these walled gardens. So you can't really tell, should I go with Google or should I go with Adobe? But my CMS, I prefer it to be Adobe because I have an Adobe CMS. So that's also another headache, I think, picking the right market.
Yes.
And lastly, I feel that this is maybe not so much about technology, but I think resources, as in talent, is a bit of an issue for integrated marketing as well. So Ranjeev talked about it. I think the age of specialization has kind of gone by already. Do we need more generalists? Because a marketer now is being stretched across left and right. He or she needs to know social media marketing. He needs to know how to work on the CMS. He needs to know data analytics, and the list goes on. An integrated marketer is a bit of a Swiss Army knife, if you ask me. But do we really have those kind of people in the talent pool? I think that's also a bit of a struggle, because our education system, a lot of us start out with specialization, but the moment you go into the workforce, there's a very different story. So resource planning and talent strategies, I think, is also another challenge that integrated marketing needs to consider.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your words on that. I will pick from where you just touched upon a topic, and that's a topic that I also have on my mind
In fact, I
many
have
times.
one thing to add to
Please.
that, what Sean was saying. You know, you spoke about talent. And I think, yes, talent is a big thing. And it's, you know, there was an era when we had specialists in agencies. You know, one person who is, you know, deep and like, you know, if you understand that, you know, vertical line would go deep and really deep in that specialization. Then an era came when we had a T kind of, you know, people who would be journalists and then deep in one skill set. Now, we are living in an era where we are looking at pi as a model. So if you have, you know, somebody who's a journalist overall in advertising marketing, but at least need to have two specializations. One specialization is not enough. Whether they have a specialization in, say, craft of creativity plus maybe media or digital or something, that's very important. And that's where I think the world is moving. And with the help of AI tools today, I think people have advantage to actually how they leverage this and make these AI tools their interns, you know, and learn more. You know, during our time when we were growing up, you know, there was not enough tools for us. You know, when the internet started, you know, we had to sit in queues to get our turn to check an email, and there was a dial-up. It would take half an hour to connect to an email, but era was very different. Today, information is at a click of a button. And with that speed, with AI and all that coming in,
all kind of media channels today to kind of better it, meeting the, you know, the needs of the marketer, expectations of the customers. You are the global director of digital innovation at EG+ worldwide, right? Can you pinpoint, can you put on table some of those leading edge solutions or ways or tactics to handle you know, an integrated marketing solution, right? Unifying technologies, unifying platforms, cross-platform creativity. Do you have something to talk about?
Okay. So every time I hear the word bleeding edge, I would trip up because the word bleeding edge is very subjective to your starting point. Because what's bleeding edge to me may not be bleeding edge to you. But good question again. I have a couple of things that I've noticed across the various offices and clients that I've spoken to, and I can go from how far and very far, but I think quite the low-hanging fruit, first of all, is I think DMPs are going to be more important than ever. So your data management platform is going to be core to your data strategies. So I mentioned earlier about data silos and all that. I think with the increased democratization of data and more touch points for a consumer to interact, you need a very strong DMP strategy that allows you to carry and build continuity in your customer experience. So that's one. The second one is what I will call, or what has been called digital twins or digital twinning. I think that's another strategy that will really help with integrated marketing. So I've seen clients that have increasingly spent or invested in a roadmap where they would turn their assets, their products, and turn it into digital assets, whether it's a form of 3D, whether it's a form of a token. And why I say that is because I think going back to the customer touch points, we're seeing an increase in immersive experiences, we're seeing an increase in screens because of the IoT, that your website needs to load as well on the browser as it needs to load on a watch and on the fridge or in the car. So with all these different touch points, you need to have a strategy that will leverage on asset reutilization. And with the rise of gaming engines taking over 3D development, that's like a no-brainer to me. So digital twinning to me is another thing that I'm noticing. Lastly, and I know AI has been brought up a couple of times in this session, I will put a bit of a topic and a focus on the infrastructure around it. So custom generative AI models or enterprise models, I think is is the way that organizations will start using generative AI. There are a lot of risks involved around security, privacy, ethical issues around a lot of the foundation models that you see, ChatGPT and all that. But if you take a step back, you will see that there are big players like NVIDIA who are building a framework called NeMo, which will basically allow an organization to customize multiple layers of a foundation data, training their own domain-specific data sets, building their own customized guardrails so that a model will not go up. I think this is like some of the building blocks that a lot of the future marketers are starting to lay. So when the age of AI does tip over, which we all, I think, will not dispute, it will happen soon, they will be ready to move forward, to move quickly. And I think that understanding of the infrastructure behind it is key to be able to be in an advanced position when that happens.
Okay. Ranjeev, how much of what John is saying you're using to solve Archana's problem?
I think at Designory we are doing a lot of that. And one of the examples that I would like to give is that we have this bespoke precision marketing tool that we have created, where we are integrating all the data from different sources, whether it's the Salesforce data that's coming from client's side, whether it's the M&M, your M&S Papa studies and all that is also integrated, all your Google, Facebook, Meta, media data, online and offline, call center data, everything is integrated. And based on that, we have actually a layer of customer journey that is actually mapped on that. And then the DCO, then to top that, is able to, spread out the messaging to the right audience at the right time. Now this is where I think some of the very unique thing that we have, and some of the agencies who are doing this, that's the future, because you are getting into a space which is not a creative agency domain. This is a space which, typically a lot of times, you go to clients and you say, this is that we can actually create for you bespoke. They'll say, hey, that's something Accenture or, Cognizant should do, or Infosys or TCS. That's not an advertising agency space. So do we call ourselves advertisers? No, we don't call ourselves advertising. We call ourselves, a consulting firm that is here to disrupt, and solve clients' problems. Because we believe in one thing, there's a quote from Albert Einstein that says that, insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results. If you seek different results, if you want to be ahead of others, you need to disrupt. And the disruption is in a positive way, because then only you will get exponential results. Whether it's your creative work or whether it's utilizing technology or training your talent, everything you need to actually disrupt your previous year's models and adapt something that has never been done.
Sure. Thank you very much, Ranjeev, for that. Before we go to, I'm keeping a check on time. Before we go to audience for any questions and try and go for some audience engagement here, I want to ask one question to all of you and brief answers in there. Little different, but it's a little fun question. I have been very eager about it. I want to understand what you're going to say about it. A mainline agency legacy, that's been on the decline. We're talking integrated marketing here, digital and likewise. So okay, that's on the decline. Perhaps we agree, right? Integrated marketing is coming up, and we're again discussing that. Vineet earlier in his address mentioned one after another, there are those googlies thrown on agencies and marketers who handle one after another. How much of legacy will, and a truly integrated marketing, will they be the legacy agencies here on, or is it just a passing phase and perhaps we'll come back to again super specialization?
Yeah, I think super specialization already exists. Okay, even in the legacy agencies, I think everybody is already gearing up for everything that was discussed just now, be it AI, be it the privacy world, be it anything, right? So they are also ramping up their specialists, their skill sets to be able to cater to what marketers want. The point is are they able to cater or ramp up their skill sets as fast as the changing landscape? Some may be, some may not, right? So I don't think we're going to see, while there might be a decline in just the basic services that is required and from the mainline agencies, I think the kind of services that are required might go in for a change. And I think that's what's going to happen, and that's something which I think everybody has understood and is already gearing themselves up to. So I still feel that there is a role. It's like the old adage I heard 15 years ago, the TV is dead, TV is not dead, while digital is on the rise but TV is still here, right? That same way I don't think the mainline agencies are going to die, like they're just going to reinvent themselves, and I think that's something which they will have to do if they want to survive.
And will there be more legends like we've had in the past? Anita G mentioned Mr. Prasoon Joshi and Mr. Piyush Pandey. Likewise, will we have legends at agencies now?
We will always have them. Okay, because I'll give you a simple example. 5 years back, you asked a client that, client would actually give you a brief that I want to do a digital film with a budget of 5 lakh. Today, digital films budget is, in CRs also. Production budget I'm talking about.
Sure.
So that's changing because your audiences are there. Audience behavior will never change. Audience where they are, that can change. And therefore, the storytelling that the creative agencies bring, that will never gonna die. How you give, where you give that story is important. What is important for agencies to evolve is, to be able to serve, audiences at those points in that context and being relevant.
Okay, John, clear.
Yeah, I feel like I'm sitting with two legends here, so I will not dare disagree. No, but I mean, short answer is I feel like the mainline agencies still have a big role to play. And again, going back to my technologist lens, I feel like I think a challenge with specialist agencies is that products these days tend to dictate what is the value and the offering of the agency. I remember like 10 years ago, there were agencies that would do social media monitoring. They will crawl social media channels, put together nice decks, nice Excel spreadsheets, and then hand it over to the client. And now you have all these tools that do social media monitoring, and you just wipe out a specialized agency just like that. So I think constantly the value proposition needs to change if you are a specialized agency, whereas a mainline agency has the size and the staying power to pivot where needed. But I think it's so important, even for myself and us, because we are in a pretty big holding company, is that we stay ahead. And even some of the moves that the TBWA agent network has made, acquiring innovation agencies, acquiring 3D development studios, EG Plus buying over an entire Unreal Engine development studio in Detroit. These are some of the moves that will help a mainline agency stay relevant, and a specialized agency will struggle to pivot in that manner like we can. So yeah, pro mainline agency.
Very well said, thank you. Before we wrap up and ask your last minute thing, we are open for questions for precisely 4 minutes. Please.
Thank you very much, Nitin, and thank you for this enlightening session. I just want to take advantage of this forum and get some strategic guidance from the CMOs, in the house. Basically, just want to ask that because we've been speaking about, omnipotent agencies, and a very nice example that John used, where he said that, can agencies be like Swiss knives? So, what do you think should be the what next strategy for, agencies like Magnon or Magnon Group? My question is for Archana, but I would, welcome answers from Tathagat, Rahul, Saikat, Praveen, anyone. So basically what we are trying to do is, and with the central perspective that many clients do not want to fragment, ideally, clients do not want to fragment their campaigns and would like to work with an agency or an agency group which offers a large part of the spectrum. Nobody can offer everything, but you know, a group maybe which offers a large part of the spectrum. And for us, because we would obviously want more work from the client, so what we've done as a group is that we built these 3 different agencies with specializations. So we have Magnon Designory, which is essentially a digital marketing, social media agency. We've got Magnon EG Plus, which is a hardcore creative production agency. 10,000 banners that you want to build, or 200 EDMs, transcreation, adaptation. We are also setting up offshore labs for global brands who want to set up production hubs in India. And the third is Magnon Sancus, which is a linguistics agency. So between these 3, we've seen a lot of growth, and I think we've been able to retain a lot of clients and get a large part of their overall investment. What do you think should be the strategy going forward for a group like us? Because like they say, what's worked till now may not work in the future. So we are constantly grappling with, what should we be doing next? Should it be a 4th vertical, or should we just, go deeper into each of the 3? Is this really the future model for agencies? So like I said, it's some of the best brains in marketing here, and I want to take advantage of that. Thank you.
I mean, it's very difficult to predict what the strategy for an agency should be, because I think each agency will have to figure out its own roadmap, right? You have 3 verticals. I'm not an expert to tell you what is right for your business, so I'm not even going to attempt it. But I think it's about listening. I think Anita said about listening to consumers. Here, I think it's about listening to clients to see what's the need that they have and what's the need in future. It's like how we do consumer work with consumers to understand and try to decipher what do they need without them knowing, because many times the consumer doesn't know what they want. So I think the same, in my mind, the same thing holds true here, that at least if you're speaking to your set of clients, to actually do a deep understanding as to what do they think they need, or what do you understand from your conversations with them as to what they may need in future, and that's how you build. Because as I said, I am not the expert here as to tell you what to do, but I think it's just about understanding from clients where, because each client has a different trajectory in terms of the way their business runs, right? There might be some similarities, but there are a lot of differences. So, I mean, that's all I can say.
What I want to know is
Table. I said anyone from that table.
I think what the 2 things that you pitched is that some of your clients have been there with you for a decade and you've grown at a phenomenal CAGR. So I think rather than thinking where is my 4th vertical going to come, bulk of your clients will also will tell you over a period of time how their business is evolving, and the growth cannot be really horizontal. That if I am doing something for you and I have certain skill sets and there is a relationship, I might as well do that for you. That's probably not the way to sales pitch, rather than understanding, okay, the direction that my client's business is doing. Is my current skill set enough to offer that as well or not? That's how I would do it.
So I think with 87% CAGR, I don't have, sorry, 83% CAGR, I don't have to tell you how to kind of build that business, how to kind of work towards that, but I think one thing which you guys are very good at is brand curation. And one thing which will really help you on everybody in their personal career or your agency thing, which I personally believe is a brand creation. I think that is one thing which will never gonna go out of fashion. The name of this summit is Brand Summit, right? And no matter what we talk about DCO and first party data and all the other MarTech part of it, whatever it is, it's very good, it's great. But an overuse of that is like, a brand relationship is like your first love. If you remember that tension, that curiosity, that, that affection, that challenge, that is there in the creation part of it. Everything else, if you oversimplify it, if you over customize it, you're going to lose that particular thing, is what I believe. So all this is great to the level where it optimizes your cost, it do a lot of good things, but I think that's one part which will never go out of fashion. That's the primary between an agency and a client that needs to kind of come together. And I think you guys have great capability of doing that. It's just that you need to take that leap and start working.
Nothing much to add. I think there are two important principles that we all need to remember. One, beyond transactions, when the agency becomes big, when they become large conglomerates themselves, which you are, I think there are two things that can never change. A client, knowingly or unknowingly, would always look out for an advisory from you. And the advisory has to come from the frontline person who is managing that account. As long as you're doing that right, you will continue to keep your accounts engaged, and perhaps that's your secret recipe, I don't know, for having clients for more than 10 years. And the other aspect is that, beyond the actuals, after your example, Hanuman and Sursa, as long as you're trying to keep pace with times and trying to think ahead of the curve, brands will love you. It's as simple as that. And lastly, staying honest to your client and keeping them honest is the crux of relationships. That is where I've seen some of the greatest agency brand relationships existing for years together. So those are the things I wish to just add. Thank you.
I had one last thing wishing to say that and I'm in response to what Rahul has said. Yes, the whole concept of building a brand is what still gives everybody the kick, the buzz. But while we do that, let's not, we are an ecosystem here. Nobody really, can lay claim to being that, elusive agency or the elusive circuit who will kind of, make the brand, and the rest are all peripherals. So I generally have a personal problem with the word mainline. I hope that word changes soon. Rather it is people who create the brand, and everybody who can contribute to that idea should actually be mainline.
So this is the first time I've been advising a company going at 83% CAGR. So I think I would agree to all the points that have been said. My idea is a little disruptive, I would say. For example, the precision marketing ecosystem that was mentioned, I think the same can be used as a SaaS model and can be given out, pay as you use. So components like these can be built. If we look at now, no SaaS player has actually done any campaign. So if a company take a SaaS platform, they are picking a platform. But you guys have actually built a platform, done campaigns, so no anything. So I think SaaS can be a parallel business.
Thank you so much, Archana. Thank you, Rahul Tathagar. Thank you, Praveen. Thanks, Sekar. I must tell you that the last 10 minutes have given me so much to think about, so much to action. Thank you for your inputs. Each one of you has made one very important and very pertinent point which we can immediately introduce into our way of working. So thank you so very much. Really, really precious for us. Thank you. I really want to go on talking about this, but I don't want to hold everybody, away from the dinner. So thank you. Thanks, Archana. Thanks, Nitin.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
If there are no more questions, I don't see any hands up. We can kind of wrap up. We're already beyond 9. Any last thoughts if you have? No kabacham.
I don't want to hold people for time.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.